Male 34, got married to my husband, male 35, last October, and with the marriage came 3 kids from his previous relationship. I adore them. I have a good relationship with the younger 2. The eldest, Damon, is still rather awkward around me. I'd say that I'm their main carer, as Ma is paid enough at work to allow me to stay at home and focus on my art, and their mother, Christine, is always busy with shifts at her 2 jobs. It's gotten to the point that the youngest, Alma, toddler, calls me Daddy. I have very solid beliefs, such as the belief that meat is unethical. I don't want anyone to bring meat into my house. When I got into a relationship with Ma, he became a vegetarian. As a result, when the kids are here, the meals I cook for them contain no meat. Damon had no problem with it up until now. He complains at every given opportunity about the lack of meat. I've explained to him that eating meat is non-negotiable. He can eat it at his mother's. His father backed me up. I've tried to compromise by buying him Beyond Meat, but he still insists on actual meat. Another thing is that my husband is very affectionate to me and the kids, although Damon, being a teen, is embarrassed by that. The younger 2 always climb onto our laps for hugs, and Alma always wants to be carried around on my hip. I don't speak to Christine much. We're not on very good terms, as she's been homophobic to me in the past and critical of my former job, so I was surprised when she wanted to speak to me when I dropped her kids off at her home. She demanded that I don't push vegetarianism on her kids to allow them to eat meat in our home, to which I told her that I don't dictate what food she cooks in her house, so she shouldn't do so to me. She also stated she was uncomfortable with Alma calling me Daddy and the affection I show to her kids. Aside from being vegetarian, I tried to respect her wishes and discourage Alma from calling me Daddy, and I stopped letting her and River climb onto my lap or hug me. That didn't work out very well, and I was left to deal with 2 confused and upset little kids to comfort. Therefore, I decided to go against their mother's wishes and let them carry on doing what they're used to. I feel conflicted because their mother's wishes have been disrespected, but at the same time I'm just doing what's best for the kids, not what's best for her. Am I the idiot for disrespecting my husband's ex-wife's wishes? Edit: Damon is not banned from meat. He does eat meat when he goes out with his father or his friends. Crap, I even pay for it when he goes out to eat. The smell of meat nauseates me for a variety of reasons. I do feel sympathy for Christine, but there was no cheating involved. She wouldn't have to work as much if she just let Ma give her money, but she's totally against that. They were separated while she was pregnant. At that time, he began visiting the club I was working at, which is how we met. The story is ostensibly about food, but you sprinkle enough information for us to deduce you got together with your husband while he was still married to his ex and she was pregnant. You now live a careless, jobless life where you have tons of spare time to focus on art and bond with the kids, and call yourself their primary caretaker while also letting us know the kids spend a considerable amount of time living with their mother, who you tell us lost her 13-year-old marriage, her financial safety, and had to, while pregnant, deal with her husband cheating and divorcing her and go out and get 2 jobs to make ends meet. You also vaguely allude to your previous job at a club where you met your husband. Man, you are the idiot. Yeah, dude, these kids have known you for like 2 years. You got with their dad while their mom was pregnant. Damon will have seen this, and I'm not at all surprised that he's awkward around you. The biggest idiot here is your husband, because it doesn't sound like he's really thinking about the impact on his kids here. He's changed their diets, dumped the childcare onto you, takes your side against his own son on the meat issue. Interesting. In any case, stop speaking to Christine and tell your husband he needs to deal with the co-parenting side of things. He's the parent, and he needs to handle this, not you. I mean, it sounds like the husband married OP partially for the childcare. If I was the ex-wife, I would be having a hard time not trying to ruin their lives. Like, she has to work 2 jobs to make ends meet, while her ex-husband who cheated on her gets to take time with her children away from her because he's moved in a new bangmaid who gets all the free time in the world to paint and be daddy to someone else's kids. Like, just horrible people, honestly. I'm a 25 male and my girlfriend Melissa, not her real name, is 25 female. We recently moved in together and she decided to take the step of introducing me to her dad, Ron, 50s male. Now, Melissa is low contact with her dad, mainly because he wasn't really in her life growing up, and to be brutally honest, is kind of an idiot. Melissa and her brother Kenny were raised by their mom, and Ron just popped in a few times per year. He's one of those guys who thinks his masculinity is dependent on getting women, driving the biggest truck, having the most expensive chain, whatever. Kenny is a bit like that too, but I've hung out with him a few times and he's not as bad. Now, last week, Melissa and I decided to go to a local restaurant so I could meet her dad. I love this restaurant, usually get shrimp there. They have fire shrimp and grits and also good skewers. In the car on the way, Melissa told me I couldn't order shrimp. I asked if it was because of the cost and assured her I was happy to treat everyone, including Ron. She said no and that her dad thinks eating shrimp is fruity. I guess because of the shape, and he will doubt my orientation if he sees me eating shrimps. I said okay. Well, at the restaurant the shrimp looked too good to pass up, so I got the shrimp skewer along with a mac and cheese. Ron kept giving me weird looks, and at the end of the meal he said, "I bat for the other team and only gay will eat shrimp." I told him politely that this is totally untrue, and that I'm not gay, though I respect anyone who is. My own cousin is gay actually, and he's like a brother to me. On the way home, Melissa got upset and said I could have held off for just one night, and I wanted to sabotage her already fragile relationship with her dad. I got her flowers the next day and we're good now. What do you all think? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. And frankly, petty little me would have thrown out a bone or two to mess with her dad. I would have looked him in the eye and sucked longingly on the shrimp. But seriously, I would reconsider this relationship with Melissa. What you got at dinner is a preview of how your life would be. Enjoy your shrimp. Yeah, shrimp. Wow. Literally never heard that one. It's gay to eat shrimp now. I'm a straight man, so what am I supposed to eat? Just rare steak and a potato? What childhood trauma did he experience that made little shrimp so troubling? Some Halloween shellfish outfit gone wrong? Dude is crazy and probably projecting. Everyone's an idiot. Obviously Melissa's dad is a jerk, no need to enumerate the reasons why he's an idiot. But she already has a strained relationship with him. She asked you to skip the shrimp because she knew it would provoke an obnoxious reaction from her dad, and she was trying to reduce the number of potential conflicts in a delicate and high-stress situation. Her request wasn't because she thought her dad was right, it was because she was trying to increase the odds that he would like you and that you would all have as pleasant a time together as possible. Geez, if her dad is that big of a phobe and that insecure, why does she want him in her life? The secret to having relationships with people like that is to make your boundaries clear and kick them to the curb if they don't comply, not to give ground to ridiculous bigotry. I was at a bookstore last night after work. When I got to the register, it was empty. A moment later, an employee came back around with another customer. The other customer got in line behind me while still chatting with the employee. I could tell the employee was a little uncomfortable as she called me forward. The other customer stood literally right behind me as the employee kept doing the brush off of, "Yeah? Oh really? Wow." The other customer was talking about how she'd recently been diagnosed with cancer, going into details about the treatment she'd need, etc. Finally, she was quiet when it was clear the employee was focused on my transaction and trying to ask me the whole, "Do you have a rewards card? Do you want one?" etc. spiel. That's when the other customer turned to me and started giving me the same story. I said I was sorry to hear about her diagnosis and went back to speaking to the employee. The customer still kept talking, right in my ear, saying, "Yeah, I'm so angry. Why did this have to happen to me?" Finally, I told her, "You need to back up and give me some space. Stop interrupting our conversation." She started saying, "I have cancer, I need to vent." I said, "Again, sorry to hear that, but we're not your therapists. Back up." She backed up and went silent. Employee looked relieved. I told my wife what happened and she told me I was rude. The woman was clearly going through something. I said, as a former retail worker, I despise people who unloaded their days on me, and she was clearly making the employee uncomfortable while also standing right next to me. Wife said I was still wrong. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Would love to see how your wife deals with something like this. She needed to be told. I've worked retail and this is a hard situation. You can't be rude and at the same time this person is making it very hard for you to do your job. She needed to vent, no doubt, but she can't go around talking at strangers like that. This is why bartenders deserve big tips and why therapists have jobs, so people can vent to them. OP, you were a customer, you didn't have to stay and listen. It's literally not your job to listen to the random lady, and unlike the cashier, you could leave. I feel bad for the store worker, but this whole thing was not your problem. Former retail here too. It's sad, very sad that these people have no one else to talk to, but we're not there to be trauma dumped on. I don't mind spending 15 minutes listening to someone talk about their begonia bushes, but I don't want to stand there listening to how Uncle Gary touched every kid in the family before Grandpa took him out for a drive in the old pickup and came back by himself. Retail workers are not therapists, and you did that cashier a favor. So my kid was born on 31st of December and is now young school age. And each year we celebrate by having a family lunch at our house with my husband's family, since mine is in a different country. My sister-in-law got married 3 months ago and had a celebration lunch 2 weeks after. There we met her new in-laws, but we never connected or exchanged more than hello, how are you, goodbye, so they're practically strangers. They didn't interact at all with my kid. Now comes my kid's birthday, and my sister-in-law says that her in-laws will be in town, so they would come to the birthday lunch as well. I didn't feel like having strangers in the house for that special day. My kid didn't want them around, so I told my sister-in-law that she and her husband are welcome to come, but her in-laws can find something else to do for 3 hours. So here's what my sister-in-law decided to do. She came and brought over her son, left him for the day to spend time and play with my kid. Then she said to her mom and her brother, not my husband, to join her husband and her in-laws for a morning coffee. The morning coffee turned into lunch, which turned into no one showing up for my kid. Around 5 p.m, I tell my husband to call her and tell her to pick up her kid. I was done babysitting him. She comes alone and sees we didn't cut the cake, so she says, come on, let's sing and cut it. My kid didn't want to. She wanted to leave it for later to do it just with her dad and me. The sister-in-law kept at it. Her son said he wants to try the cake, so reluctantly we sang happy birthday and we cut it. They had a slice and left. I also gave them a piece of cake to take with them for the in-laws. My husband and I decided to do at least something special for the day. I won't say how sad my girl was, so we went bowling, first time for my kid. While in the car, my brother-in-law sent me a message saying that after the outing he had, he was sleepy and went to bed, and now he's up and wants to come over to give the gift to my kid. I tell him we're not home. While we're bowling, my mother-in-law calls my husband, it was around 7 p.m. by now, and says she wants to pass by to give my husband a sweet she'd prepared. I blow up and tell my husband no one is welcomed anymore, we'll go home and rest so we can be up for the New Year's fireworks. So, long story short, because I didn't invite the in-laws of my sister-in-law to my kid's birthday party, no one showed up. Cherry on the cake is that I've been told that I'm the idiot for making my sister-in-law choose between my kid and her in-laws, or for not celebrating the birthday another day. So, who's the idiot here? Also, for the past 4 days, my sister-in-law keeps on asking to meet, which she never did before, which I gently refuse because I'm not ready to see her yet. Was it something so small that I should just forget about it? Also, I forgot to mention that all of them anyhow had a lunch date at sister-in-law's house the next day, on the 1st of January. I'm really confused here. Your kid's grandma didn't show up to kid's birthday party because they went out for coffee instead. OMG, not the idiot. Grandma is also awful, not just sister-in-law. Well, we know who's the golden child now. I'm horrified. It's easy to say, I'm sorry it's my granddaughter's birthday, I have to go now. If you can't rely on them for this, you can't rely on them for anything. Your husband's whole family are idiots. They completely blew off your child's birthday for coffee, which they could have had any other time. You and your husband are idiots for pandering to your sister-in-law when she demanded the cake be cut. Your child wanted to save it for you and your husband. No means no, end of. Your husband needs to talk to his family and tell them that how they treated your daughter was horrible and frankly pathetic, and they should apologize. Yeah, I would have cut the cake and smashed it in her face, to be honest. Anyone who blew off my kid's birthday party would be someone I didn't speak to for months. They showed that your kid is at the bottom of their priorities, so they are now at the bottom of yours. They don't get to come over, they don't get to blame you for their cruelty, and they don't get to act like they didn't do this to your child because they wanted to punish you. My mom married her husband when I, 28 female, was 16. I met him that same year and only lived in the same house as him for a little over a year before I moved out to go to college. I never saw him as a father figure, never saw him as a stepdad, meaning not a parent. I get along with him fine and he's a nice guy, but that's about it. My brother, 30 male, never lived with him. My brother got married in 2019 and my mom walked him down the aisle opposite his wife and her parents. Mom's husband was waiting for Mom in their seats. He didn't include her husband in the wedding as a parent because he wasn't one to my brother. This is something that upset Mom's husband, and I only learned this a few months ago when I got engaged. How I learned this is my mom and her husband mentioned that he was hoping I would ask him or both of them to walk me down the aisle. I chose to ask my paternal granny. My mom's husband told me it had really hurt to be publicly declared not a parent or parent figure when he's always thought of us as his kids in some way. I asked him if a special dance with Mom or walking down the aisle with Mom would make him feel better, and he said no. He said he didn't want to be just something to Mom, but to be publicly acknowledged as a father figure. I told him he's not a father figure to me, and I'm sorry that he wants to be, but it's not how I see him. He and Mom both mentioned it over the last few months, and now my wedding is closing in on us, and my mum told me I should have given him an actual role as a parent of the bride. She said it's breaking his heart to know he only gets to be her husband and not a fatherly figure. She asked me if they paid for the wedding, if I would change my mind, and I said no. She asked me how much they would have to contribute to the wedding for him to get the role as father of the bride, and I told her no amount. When I spoke to him, he told me I was just being cruel and to have both of us reject him as a father figure stung. Am I the idiot here? Edit. Most of my college expenses were paid by my grandparents and none by him or my mom. Not the idiot. Dude really wants praise and acknowledgement for something he didn't do. I like being thanked. Is it possible he and your mom have been playing happy blended family in public without your knowledge, and your wedding could put the lie to that? In any case, best wishes for your upcoming wedding. I hate to be blunt, but he was not a parental figure, especially with your brother who was already out of the house and never lived with your mother's husband. But you were already grown enough to not need parental support from him as you were heading off to college. I feel like maybe he had grown to have some great expectations when it comes to the position he has in your lives, which is not your fault. Maybe your mother could have insinuated how important he is to you. It sounds like he's told all his friends that his little girl is getting married and he's so proud and blah blah blah. Reality was not supposed to actually intrude on his fantasies. If that's the case and there was a lot of bragging, no wonder they're making such a big stink now, though I can't help wondering that this whole time they didn't realize how the relationship was between OP and them. I'm sure there were plenty of signs. It doesn't sound like they're close at all. So this shouldn't have been a huge surprise for Mom and her husband.